Hi everybody, welcome to another episode with myself and Stephen. And we've got a really interesting, simple title, but probably quite complex conversation. We're titling this episode, What About You? Yes, Stephen's idea again. So over to you, Stephen. What's prompted you to bring this one up?
Yeah, this has been really prompted from probably the last 5 months of the year, start of the year, where I'm definitely seeing more and more leaders um, not thinking about themselves in the organization and what they can do for themselves, whether that's in the working environment or outside of work. And what this podcast is all about for me is to give you back your power to start thinking about, what about me? What about you? What can I do to help myself and give myself some self love? And I've been talking about it quite a lot, and that's because I see it day in day out where you've got a person that's so invested in everybody else that they've forgotten themselves. And the thing I want to plant is, if you are in the best position possible as a human, you are already best positioned to help people. If you're not in the best position as a human, you're probably not in the best place to help people. And, whether that's around mental health, whether that's around physical health, um, you know, it's about taking back that control and thinking about yourself. And whether you're a parent, whether you're someone that's help looking after someone with any sort of health issues, and whether you're a person that's management position, leader, looking after a group, there is a tendency, because of the nature of what you do, for you to be always thinking about someone else. And what I want this podcast to say is, actually, I'm giving you back yourself and saying, look at yourself and think about what what is it that I can do for me. And I mean, it's something that I've had to look at myself and ask the same question, because it's so easy. You get wrapped up in whether that's work, someone at work, a client, a mentee, a family member, a friend, that you think, well, when am I gonna make that time for me? When am I gonna listen to my own heartbeat? When am I gonna have my meditation? When am I gonna have time to plug in and do the things that I want to do? When am I gonna do that? When I talk to people, they go, "Oh, I just haven't got time." We have got time, but you've got to make that time, and you've got to think about yourself in order to make that time. And it's not selfish. A lot of people I talk to will go, well, isn't that selfish behavior? No, it's not selfish behavior. Because actually, to be the best version of yourself, you have to work on you. You have to spend some time with you. So this podcast is all about giving you back you to be able to do the things for yourself. And that's whether that's, self-love, whether that's self-respect, whether that's self-time, whatever it is. I really feel passionate about this, that the more you can think about yourself and do things for you, the better positioned you are for everyone else.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because the irony is, slightly controversially, really, when you don't look after yourself and you say like things like, I haven't got enough time or something, which A is a lie, it's also quite lazy. Because it's a hell of a lot easier to not do stuff for yourself than it is. I mean, honestly, this gig here, coaching, is great. I don't know about you, Stephen, but I certainly listen to myself when breakthroughs are had by clients, and maybe I've given a pearl of wisdom, and I think in my head, quietly inside voice goes, imagine if you did that, Oliver. How would that work for you? Yes, really, really well, actually. Thanks very much. Do as I say, not as I do, is often something I very inappropriately bring out, because I know what should be done. And the difference is, these guys that we work with have got the conviction to do it. And I certainly, from my personal view, I've had a lot of years of doing stuff, and the 8 years running this business has meant that I haven't had to do as much, and I've quite enjoyed that, and I'm okay with that. But these people that come to us, they're not okay with it, and they want to fix these things. So all joking apart, that's one of the first things that comes to mind. I think sometimes for me, sharing your own experiences, which you certainly do a lot on these, really helps. So for me, it was blown away a little recently by people who know me well, who were a bit surprised to learn that I've basically been told I have been suffering with anxiety for a long period of time, which blew my tiny world wide open, because I was like, what, me? Tough old me who doesn't have any problems? I don't do stress. What's stress? What a load of rubbish that other people suffer with. But what it was just an amalgamation of many, 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 many things had just got on top of me. And for mine, it was a physical manifestation in heart palpitations, which led to a few investigations and ultimately diagnosed that I didn't have anything physically wrong with me per se, but this was the body's reaction to stress. Yeah. So what I would implore everybody to do is just be aware, because there probably are signs, there probably are triggers, because as soon as someone said that to me and they were a professional, I listened.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about stuff, and there's a list in no time at all. I won't bore you with it now, but I could come up with 30 major things that have gone on in the last 3 or 4 years, which actually probably are difficult, traumatic, time-consuming, stressful, and whatever one of them was the one where the body was just like, you know what, rein it in. You've got to stop. So I'm someone who's fairly confident. Yeah. I would never have considered myself as ever getting stressed, and I know a lot of people out there feel the same. They just wouldn't recognise it, they wouldn't acknowledge it, they wouldn't look at it. And this is kind of my permission for you to say, sit back, just look at your last year. What has happened in your last year? And just consider how much stuff you may or may not have been tolerating in that time. Yeah. Because we can put up with an awful lot, and it's amazing where maybe some bad behaviour, when it first happens, you think, well, that's outrageous, but then it continues, and suddenly months later, that's just normal. And that bad behaviour has actually got worse, because what would have first triggered you to think, well, that's not right, you've allowed to happen, and therefore people have gotten away with it more and more and more, and what you're willing to tolerate now is just magnified to a huge degree. So that whole piece about looking after you is so much more important than you think. It's not just about the ability to help other people effectively, it's about making sure that you stay well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's so easy, Oliver, to forget that. We often as well focus on the physical aspects of being well, and not the mental aspects. And a lot of the mental aspects, reside in our heads, about what we think, and I think that's why we need that time out sometimes to recharge. We need that time to ourselves. That's okay to take yourself away from the day to day, and whether that's 15-20 minutes, just have some time on your own. But it's thinking about you, and I know this is going to resonate with so many people, because I think there's not one week where I'm with my mentees or clients that this doesn't come up, and I'm always really surprised by the person I'm talking to doesn't even realise they're not thinking about themselves, because they've become conditioned to just doing what they do, which happens to be thinking about everyone else and not themselves. And I do think from a mental perspective as well, our mental health is drastically improved when we take that time out and do things for us. Whether that's going for a walk, which I often talk about, the power of walking, whether that's reading that book that you haven't had time to read, whether that's going to visit friends or do something that you enjoy doing for you. And I'm not being sexist here, but this affects women a lot, because there's a lot of guilt. And when I talk to a lot of women about it, there's this almost guilt around, I can't do that because I feel guilty when I'm doing that, because that means I'm not doing something else. And it's absolutely crazy to think we live in a world where a woman feels guilty for doing something for themselves rather than for someone else, which is, it's quite painful actually. And actually when it lands, the look on the face that actually, I can't remember the last time I did something for me. It's actually a bit of an awakening, and it can actually really, allow people to just get back into a space that they've forgotten about, especially becoming a parent or a carer. You literally forget. Well, oh, I used to like this. It's not like you used to like it. You've always liked it.
Yeah.
You've just stopped doing it. And I'm going to throw something out there, because this is something that I feel really strongly about. So the question I want everyone to ask that's listening to the podcast is, I want you to ask yourself, what are the 5 things that I really, really enjoy doing most in the world, whatever those 5 things are. I want you to write them down. And then what I want you to do is then right next to those 5 things, when was the last time you did them? And if you haven't done those things in the last week or month at the most, then you got a problem. You've 100% got a problem, because that means those are the things that you enjoy doing and you haven't done them for a week or for a month. You've got a problem, because basically you're not thinking about yourself and what makes you happy.
Yeah, that is great, because it's one of the markers I use now. So one of my passions is golf, as you well know, and I have some regular habits almost formed for golf. And lately, business is going well, but meetings are happening, and I'm going to have to look at it, because 2 of my regular golf sessions I'm having to miss. And that is the work-life balance just starting to tip out of balance, and I'm aware of it. Now, I know that will sound ridiculous to people there, especially as it's midweek golf and things like that, but I have built this business and structured this business in that way that it's good for my health and well-being. I haven't done as well with it, as we know from the anxiety I talked about earlier, but that's the whole point. Even somebody like myself, theoretically anyway, highly skilled at noticing these things, is still missing it.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely guarantee the vast majority of people listening here, without any form of help of some description, are missing loads of things about themselves. And it's the big sort of pandemic that we've got, is whatever you want to call it, stress, anxiety, not looking after yourself, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what you want to call it, we're all doing it. For example, people who spend a long time on their phone, whether you want to hear it or not, it is bad for you. There are lots and lots of negative things about spending a lot of time on the screens. There's more and more and more research coming out about the difficulties that it's going to give young people with socialising, with brain fatigue, with all these various things, because they don't switch off. There are lots of things that if you're not consciously aware of them, then they're going to be challenges. So when it comes to things like me not playing a golf thing, I'm consciously aware of that now, because I've set my top 5, as it were, like you've really well put over there. But with the other stuff, I still wasn't focused on it, so it's caught me out.
Yeah.
So I thought I got it nailed, because I know the things that I want to do, but I wasn't looking for other triggers. And there are so many signs that our bodies give us.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at the list of, you go on the NHS and look up anxiety and look at all the list of things. I would challenge you, along with the top 5, Google anxiety, go to the NHS page and see if you haven't got anything on that list. Because when I was in the hospital getting checked out and being told this is probably where we were heading, and then I read up on it thinking, what a load of nonsense, and I was like, I got that, yeah. It was surprising the sort of things there are that link to it. So, especially if you're not getting any of those top 5s, I would be straight on to that NHS page just to make sure there aren't anything on the checklist, because I'll be confident that there will be.
And there's so much you can do to really tap back into yourself. There really is. And we could reel loads off, but it's definitely worth everyone looking into it and researching. But I would start with yourself and ask yourself the question and said, what are the things that you enjoy doing? Because not everyone's going to enjoy doing the same thing. I mean, I could say some things now, but they might not be the things that people enjoy doing. So it's thinking about what do you enjoy doing, and then tapping those back in, and then having that time, whether that's to meditate and to read, to think about you, to think about yourself. That's the issue. Is you don't spend time thinking about yourself. And when was the last time you actually listened to your heartbeat? When was the last time you listened to yourself breathing? The amount of people I talk to where they hold their breath a lot because they're not breathing,
or they don't breathe deeply enough.
Yeah, they're literally just shallow breathe. So that was and if you just try that, inhale and exhale, just do that like 5 or 6 times really deeply, and you feel lighter straight away. Tapping into yourself, listening to your heartbeat, listening to yourself, being at one with yourself. It actually is life-changing, I would go to say, and I think, in some of my darkest times, that is some of those things have got me through those dark times. Because I'm still a great believer that we're our own walking pharmacy. We have the drugs inside of us. We just need to release them sometimes to help heal.
I feel like Ollie suddenly morphed into here.
Definitely Ollie. Gosh, now he is a minefield. His knowledge is insane. But what I'm trying to get at is a lot of the things we have with us, we just don't know how to maybe activate those things, but they are there. There's a reason why when you stop and you go for that walk, and then you come back, you know, you might have had a list of problems, but you go for the walk, you come back, and actually those problems don't seem as bad as they did pre walk. You know, I know when I go to the gym or go for a run, you know, the feeling, you know, I might feel a bit lethargic before. I'm thinking, oh my god, I've got to go and do this. But afterwards, you just feel so great. There's a reason for those feelings. When you visit someone that you like being around and enjoy their company, it lifts you. And these are the sort of things I'm talking about when I'm talking about, you know, about you. You know, what are the things that you enjoy doing? You know, when are you going to do them next? Write it down, because I'd love to hear about that. And you know, I would say it's, if you are going to make a change in your life and to change the outcomes, then you have to think about, what is it that I want to do for me, and you have to think about yourself in that. You know, if there's one thing COVID gave us, I know there's a lot of negative things. You know, a lot of people lost close ones, and it was quite a tough time for a lot of people. But it was also a real positive time for a lot of people, where people were able to stop and reflect and ask myself the question, you know, what is it that I want to do? You know, who am I? What do I want to be? And, you know, a great way of doing it is, you know, all of you that have mobile phones, turn them on, go to your camera, reverse the camera. That person that you're looking at, you owe that person that you're looking at right now, you owe that person to care for that person, to love that person, to do what's right for that person.
Absolutely, 100%. And it just got me thinking there, and I just lost my track. But it took me to another thing, that I was at a client's this morning, and just happened to be a really early session, and reading the body language of the people that I knew but I haven't worked with in that organisation coming through the door, and we were actually talking about working on some cultural stuff. I was like to this person, "You've got a problem." Because those people are going to walk through the door in a minute, and that everything's going to change, because they're going to be like, "Door's here, right, walk through," smiley face, and we're happy. But I was like, there is a problem here. I don't know what it is, but you can just see, because, and again, those people they're not looking out for themselves. Maybe it's part of the company's not looking out for them enough. I don't know what it is, but I could just pick up on it in that short amount of time, that there was a lot of people there who were definitely not looking after themselves and looking out for themselves. Because, it's, like I said it before, it's a pandemic. You know, it's something that is only going to get worse if we don't do something about it now, and it's going to cause us problems that we can't even foresee, because we don't really understand this stuff. You know, that's one of the biggest challenges with the Western culture, I think. The Western culture is just about work hard, do as you're told, and the rewards will come. Whereas we know there's plenty of other cultures out there that don't see life that way, and, you know, life expectancy is up. I mean, there's a really cool book, if anybody hasn't read it or listened to it, called Ikigai, which is a Japanese word. And it's basically all around purpose and so forth. And it's an interesting, it's relatively short, quite cool read. So if you have a chance and you like to pick up a book, it's a really interesting life, and it talks about life expectancy, the importance of purpose, not spreading yourself too thinly, all these sorts of things. So no, thank you. I think that's a really good one to bring up, because obviously it hits home with me. I certainly see it in a lot of clients, and it's another one that just would get pushed aside, brushed off, no rubbish. Just like me, I can resonate, because that was exactly how I felt when somebody said that, "Oh, you might, you know, there's nothing wrong with you." In actual fact, in terms of physicality, which is why I was there in the first place. But there's a whole lot wrong with you up there. It's like, but this is what I do for a day job. How can that possibly be? How can I have missed all the signs? And yet I had. So, you know, not wanting to sort of build myself up, but if I'm able to miss it, and this is what I do every day, then, and I see it in other clients all the time, I still couldn't pick up myself. So what are you missing? To be perfectly frank. So yeah, I think that's a really, really powerful one for me. So that's me. I can't remember the other thing I was going to say. I'm sure it would have just been more ranting. So how would you like to wrap this one up?
I would just say, you know, to everybody out there, you know, think about you, start living yourself, and doing things that make you happy.
Nice. Excellent. Well, another thought-provoking one there. So we look forward to the next episode. So until the next time, bye-bye.